Did you know that you can protect the inheritance you leave to your greedy, unwashed, undeserving heirs for up to 100 years from lawsuits, from divorce, from bankruptcy, and even estate taxes? Yes, I said 100 years. We're going to talk about that in this Retirement Planners of America podcast.
Retirement Planners of America, RPOA.com.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to our Retirement Planners of America podcast. And we're doing our series on estate planning. And in this episode, we're going to talk about how to protect your estate from lawsuits, divorce, bankruptcy, and estate taxes for up to 100 years. Yes, an entire century, and maybe even longer. So we're going to dive into that because I know all of you want to do that. And so I'm going to bring Jeremy into the combo. I'm going to call it a combo. And so you're interested in doing that, right?
Yeah.
But you're not married and have no kids yet, right? So,
right, yeah.
But when you do.
Right.
And you want to pass on to those greedy, unwashed, undeserving heirs of yours.
Yes.
You want to make sure that if they ever get divorced, sued, declare bankruptcy, whatever.
Absolutely.
You want to protect them from all of that, don't you?
Absolutely. I hope they're not ne'er-do-wells, but we're not going to, you prepare for the worst and hope for the best.
Yes.
So, yes, I would love to be able to protect a legacy for them.
Yeah, and from the standpoint of you inheriting, wouldn't you like to inherit
Absolutely.
in such a way that what you inherited is now in a hermetically sealed package
Absolutely.
that is protected from all those terrible things?
Absolutely. How do I do that?
Okay, well, let's talk about that. So, again, as we've said many times, when it comes to estate planning, it always turns out that it's a trust.
Yeah, right, yes.
So this is another trust. Okay, so I don't even know how many. One day I should sit down and write down all the different kinds. There's probably like 75 of them. I don't know.
That's crazy.
Well, this trust is we've called it a Dynasty trust. Okay, that's kind of what we branded it. But the Dynasty trust, if you talk to a lawyer, is called a generation skipping tax trust, a
Okay.
GSTT.
Just
Yeah, a GST. But that's kind of hard to say, so I like Dynasty Trust instead.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk about the Dynasty Trust today.
Okay.
And the Dynasty Trust is basically, like I said, it is a trust that what you put in it, it's a hermetically sealed container, and potentially for 100 years, it'll protect against all those aforementioned bad guys. The reason it's 100 years is because in most states in the Union, there's a law against perpetuity.
Yeah, okay.
Which means that you can't set up a trust and forever
Right.
it's protected against those things.
Yeah.
So the reason why we say potentially 100 years is because in most cases, the Dynasty Trust can last until the youngest beneficiary of the trust dies.
Okay.
And in theory, that youngest is 3 years old, could be a grandchild.
Right.
And they live to be, 90, so you got another 87 years to go before this thing. So it can last a very long time.
Yeah.
So that's why we say that. So we talk about, how does it work?
Right.
Yeah. So basically the Dynasty Trust is an irrevocable trust.
Okay.
And so do you remember the difference?
It cannot be changed once it's said the assets are taken out of your ownership and placed into the trust's ownership. I'm learning, folks. It's a
Bingo,
miracle.
Man. Give me... That's wonderful. I love that. That's correct. So what you put into the Dynasty Trust, and you can fund the Dynasty Trust while you're living.
Okay.
So, for example, if you want to put money away for your grandchildren, and you want to put some money in, the perfect vehicle for that would be a Dynasty Trust.
Okay.
In most cases, though, the Dynasty Trust is what's called a Testamentary Trust, which means it comes into existence upon your death.
Okay.
And we read your testament, your will, or your living trust, and it tells us, create now the Dynasty Trust.
Okay.
So the Dynasty Trust then receives your stuff, right? Usually we want to segregate real estate from investments because real estate comes with liability, trips and falls and whatever. We want to segregate that from your investments. But be that as it may, we put your investments into the Dynasty Trust. Why does the Dynasty Trust protect us from all these terrible things?
Yeah. How does it do that?
So the first thing is that let's say that my favorite number is $1 million. Okay, so we're going to use that.
Perfect.
$1 million. So $1 million goes into the Dynasty Trust. And this is for my daughter. And so she's married, and now she gets divorced.
Okay.
All right. So what happens is that her former husband did not divorce the Dynasty Trust.
Right. Because he was never married to it.
Correct.
Yeah.
He's divorcing my daughter.
Right.
So what she's going to say is, darling, if we'd have stayed married, you could have helped me spend this $1 million that I have in this trust.
Right.
But since we're not, he has no access to that money.
Yeah.
Because, like I said, he was never married. He has no claim on the trust. So it's a separate property. It's segregated from that.
Gotcha.
That same concept applies to lawsuits. So my daughter is driving down the freeway, and she's a bad driver, and she hits this doctor and breaks his hand. Turns out he's a surgeon.
Yeah.
Lost his career, sues her for $20 million, wins the lawsuit. She got a $20 million lawsuit, and he goes after what's in the trust. Well, the trust wasn't driving that car.
Yeah.
The trust didn't hit him. The trust has no liability because it was never involved in any of that.
Yeah.
So now what's happened is that she can tell this doctor, I'm sorry I broke your hand, but you can't touch the money in my trust.
Right.
So that's why it takes care of liability. Same concept again with bankruptcy. If my daughter declares bankruptcy, all these things I hope don't happen, by the way.
Right. Right. You're speaking a lot of things out loud. I don't think that's you're hoping it happens. You're saying if
but again, that's what we do,
they
right?
They can happen to people.
They can. And what's our motto?
You prepare for the worst and you hope for the best.
That's exactly right. So what we're doing is we're addressing something we hope doesn't happen, but we're planning for it.
Absolutely.
So the next thing is that my daughter, potentially starts a business or something and then has to declare bankruptcy. Things didn't go well.
Right.
Well, it's the same concept with that too. The bankruptcy estate does not include stuff that she doesn't own because the trust owns this.
Yeah.
She is just the trustee and the beneficiary of it, but she's not the owner. The trust is.
Right.
So therefore, the assets are not subject to being part of the bankruptcy estate, and all the creditors that line up, they can't touch any of that money. So now let's talk. So I've talked about the 100 years. We've talked about bankruptcy. We've talked about lawsuits, right? Protection. We've talked about those things. So let's talk about the mechanics of it. The money is out of your estate.
Right.
It's an irrevocable trust,
Right.
just as you said. So therefore, the money you put into it, if you do it while you're living,
it's not yours.
it's not yours anymore.
Yeah.
Right? So it has to be a completed gift to get it out of your estate.
Yeah.
And to allow it to have the protections that I just described. So you have to be aware of that before you do that. But assuming that you're okay with it, then that works. On the inheritance side, it's the same thing. So if you're married, there are assets that you want your spouse to have access to, and there are assets that you can part with that you want the kids to be available to.
Yeah.
The Dynasty Trust is basically for the kids. Now you can name your spouse after your death as the trustee and the first line beneficiary of the Dynasty Trust.
Okay.
Okay, so that means that your spouse can benefit from this trust. So again, going back to that $1 million.
Yes.
It goes into the trust. I would name my wife, which I have. We have a Dynasty Trust. And the money going into the Dynasty Trust, she would have access to. She's the trustee. And she can use it for what's called HEMS.
Okay.
Another acronym.
I was going to say another acronym.
Yes.
Sure. Yeah.
So HEMS is called health, education, maintenance, and support.
Okay.
So what the heck does that mean?
Yeah, I was about to say, that sounds pretty all-encompassing.
Well, that's true.
Yeah.
Very astute. What does that mean? Essentially, what it means is that the trust is there during my wife's lifetime for her HEMS. And what that means is to keep her in the lifestyle that she's accustomed to.
Right.
So if she's been living a Buick lifestyle, she can't now start living a Rolls-Royce lifestyle.
Right. Okay.
With the trust money.
Right.
And now you may say, well, who's the police on this?
Yeah.
Well, the greedy, unwashed, undeserving next layer down are the cops.
Yeah.
So they'll go after mom and say, hey, wait a minute. What happened to this Rolls Royce? Where'd that come from?
Yeah.
You're depleting the whole estate. You're not.
Yeah.
So there is that. But again, we talked about the block provision, right?
All right.
So tell me what the block provision is. See if you learned from our previous podcast.
That is when you take your heirs and you walk around the block and you say, listen, if you want to use all of this, you want to abuse this, that's fine, but you will get nothing else.
I will cut you out of the
You
estate.
are out of it.
Yeah, it's amazing how effective the block provision is. So anyway, therefore, my wife in this instance, she can decide how the money's invested, and she can use it for HEMS, which is pretty broad. Basically, she can get it for her income, whatever she needs. Upon her death, though, the beauty of this is that it will now pass on to the next generation with no estate tax.
Yeah.
And since this trust can last for potentially 100 years or more, it can go down potentially 2 or 3 generations before any taxes come due. And it'll pass on from my wife to my children, from my children to my grandchildren, and even to my great-grandchildren with no estate tax.
Yeah.
And, right now the estate tax is for you to owe any estate tax, you have to have a pretty large estate.
Yeah.
But there's no guarantee on that. There was a
course.
time when if you had over $200,000, you were subject to an estate tax. And we could go back to that with the deficits that we're running. So let's not take for granted today's environment.
Right.
So the beauty of that is that if those laws change or whatever, and suddenly there's a huge tax, it doesn't matter. It'll pass from one generation to the next, and even maybe to the next, with no haircut in each step from the IRS.
Yeah.
And if you think about the estate tax potentially is 50% at the highest level, if you cut something in half every generation, essentially what the estate tax is designed to do is to take it all back over the course of 2 generations.
Yeah.
That's what it's designed to do.
Yeah.
So we want to avoid that, and the Dynasty Trust can help with that.
I love that. That's a great plan, and that's something your heirs would, I'm sure, greatly appreciate.
I mean, if I was to inherit that, I would love that because now I know that this inheritance is protected against all those things. And then upon my death, it'll pass on either to my wife or to my kids tax-free.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and keep in mind one other thing about the Dynasty Trust, only you can do it. Your kids cannot.
Yeah.
So you're leaving to your kids and then to your grandchildren and your great-grandchildren, but only you can do it.
Yeah.
They can do it for their kids
theirs.
and all that. Right. But your inheritance, if you don't do this and it goes to the kids, there's going to potentially be a tax between you and your kids. That that is basically unavoidable.
Gotcha. Now, you did mention a little bit about the real estate and what you want to have that kind of separate. Is real estate, typically speaking, not put in a dynasty trust, or does it go into something we've talked about previously?
So that's a great question. Basically, what you don't want to do is put the fox in with the hen in the hen house. Okay, so real estate comes with liability.
Yeah.
The slip and fall, whatever. So it comes with that. And so you don't want to. So if you think about the trust, it's hermetically sealed.
Right.
It's protecting all these outsiders from getting in, but it's not protecting from any insiders suing and getting stuff that's inside.
Gotcha. Okay.
So if you put the real estate and the investments inside the same trust, what's going to happen is if you get a lawsuit on the real estate and they win, they can attach the investments that are also in that trust.
Wow.
So if you segregate the two, then the investments stand alone. And they'll never have liability because they're never going to slip and fall. They're never going to do anything. They're going to hurt somebody in a car.
Right.
So you want to always have your investments segregated and your real estate segregated. Now, in a really complex case, which we don't run into very often, our clients are what are called a mass affluent. They're average people. But every once in a while, we run into somebody that has, we had one person that had 3 mini shopping strip malls. And what they did was they had one of those in each one in a separate trust because they didn't want a lawsuit on that one to get at the other 2 and to get at their investments. So planning is involved in that. And again, as you always say,
let's talk to an expert. Talk to your professional.
Before you do anything that we talk about here, make sure you talk to your professionals. Or better yet, talk with us first, and we can give you ideas on what to ask for and how to think through it and all of that. So ladies and gentlemen, I hope that this was more fun than a human being should be allowed to have when talking about all this boring estate planning stuff. And if we've accomplished that, then we took a bunch of steps forward. As you guys know, our goal is to create SCWPS. And if you don't know what SCWPS are, it's an acronym. It's Second Childhood Without Parental Supervision. And that's what we want for you when you retire. We want you to go out and play and have fun and enjoy. So when a client of ours retires, we call him a SCWPR, and we tell him, get out of here, go play, go have fun. Let us worry about all this stuff so that you don't have to. And we'd love to do that for you. So get in contact with us if that appeals to you. In the meantime, hope this found you healthy, wealthy, and wise. Thanks for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe, and we'll talk soon.
Retirement Planners of America, RPOA.com.